Vancouver's real estate market, long known for its high demand and skyrocketing prices, is now facing a disaster that has left thousands of condo owners and tenants struggling to cope with the fallout. This crisis, triggered by the widespread failure of heat pump systems in residential buildings, has made many condos unlivable, creating a perfect storm of financial and emotional turmoil. While Vancouver's real estate market has been a symbol of both luxury and economic prosperity, it is now being rocked by a crisis that no one could have predicted. Heat pumps, originally introduced as an energy-efficient solution to heating and cooling issues, have become a major source of frustration for residents in Vancouver. These systems, which were hailed as the future of green technology in homes, have malfunctioned on a massive scale, leaving buildings without proper heating or cooling in the middle of extreme weather. According to recent data from the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, Vancouver has seen a significant spike in complaints from condo residents about these systems failing at an alarming rate. The malfunctioning heat pumps are not just a minor inconvenience, but a serious problem that is leaving condos uninhabitable. The immediate impact of this disaster is being felt across the city, with many owners and tenants now forced to find alternative living arrangements. What started as a simple issue with broken systems has quickly escalated into a full-blown crisis. Property owners who had invested heavily in these units are now facing the reality of lost value, skyrocketing repair costs, and a market that is increasingly hostile to them. The average cost of repairing a malfunctioning heat pump has already reached thousands of dollars, and many owners simply do not have the resources to pay for these repairs. With no guarantee that the replacements will be any better, residents are finding themselves trapped in a situation they never anticipated. The ripple effects of this disaster are spreading throughout Vancouver's real estate market. For those looking to buy, the situation is even worse. Condos that were once considered prime real estate are now tainted with the stigma of faulty systems, and the demand for these properties has plummeted. According to data from Statistics Canada, the average price of a condo in Vancouver has dropped by 10% since the heat pump crisis began, and experts predict that this trend will continue unless the problem is addressed. For many potential buyers, the idea of investing in a building with a history of heat pump failures is simply too risky. This sudden shift in the market has caused chaos for developers, many of whom are now facing lawsuits and financial ruin. Vancouver's luxury condo market, which has long been a pillar of the city's economy, is now at the mercy of a few major players who failed to account for the long-term reliability of the systems they installed. Developers, who once enjoyed the luxury of building and selling units at a rapid pace, are now scrambling to manage the fallout. Some have gone bankrupt, unable to bear the cost of repairs, legal battles, and declining property values. As one developer put it in a recent interview with Bloomberg, "We didn't expect the heat pumps to fail at this scale. It's been a disaster for us, and we're not sure how we'll recover." For banks and financial institutions, the fallout from the heat pump crisis has been no less severe. Institutions like RBC and Scotiabank, which were heavily involved in financing these condos, have had to reassess their portfolios. The sudden devaluation of Vancouver condos has led to increased risk for banks, and as a result, many are pulling back from lending. Mortgages for affected properties are becoming harder to secure, and some financial institutions are refusing to offer financing for any new developments until the crisis is resolved. For condo owners who had planned to refinance or sell, this is yet another blow to their already dwindling prospects. The situation is becoming increasingly dire, and it's clear that the consequences of this crisis will reverberate throughout Vancouver's real estate market for years to come. The political response to this crisis has been just as chaotic as the market itself. Local government officials, who have long championed the use of heat pumps as a sustainable alternative to traditional heating systems, are now facing growing criticism from residents and developers alike. Many feel that the government's push for green technology in homes was rushed, without enough consideration for the long-term reliability of the systems being installed. As the crisis unfolds, residents have begun to demand accountability from their elected officials, but political leaders are struggling to respond. Some have called for investigations into the causes of the failures, while others have pointed to the need for new regulations to ensure that these systems are properly maintained in the future. However, the political response has been slow, and many residents are losing faith in their leaders. As the heat pump crisis continues to unfold, the human cost of this disaster is becoming more and more apparent. Condo residents, many of whom are elderly or young families, are bearing the brunt of the situation. Health issues are becoming a serious concern, as some residents are forced to endure extreme heat or cold due to the malfunctioning systems. In one case, an elderly couple was forced to move out of their condo after a heat pump failure left them without heat during the winter. With no family nearby to stay with, they were forced to find temporary accommodations in a hotel at great expense. For many residents, the financial strain of paying for repairs or relocation, combined with the stress of living in unlivable conditions, has taken a severe toll on their mental health. The financial burden is not limited to property owners alone. Renters in affected buildings are also suffering, as landlords scramble to fix the issues or face legal action from their tenants. For renters, the heat pump crisis has become a nightmare, with some being forced to live in unbearable conditions or face the prospect of being evicted from their homes. The crisis has made Vancouver's rental market even more unstable, with tenants finding it harder to secure affordable housing as more landlords face financial ruin. As the crisis deepens, the threat of a larger, more widespread collapse looms. Vancouver's condo market, once considered one of the most stable and lucrative in the country, is now showing signs of unraveling. The failure of heat pumps, once seen as a minor inconvenience, has now become a symbol of a deeper systemic failure in Vancouver's real estate market. If the crisis is not addressed soon, the entire market could collapse, leading to even greater economic and social consequences. What happens next is anyone's guess, but one thing is certain: the heat pump disaster is far from over. As more buildings experience system failures and the fallout continues to spread, Vancouver's real estate market could see further declines, and the damage may take years to repair. In the meantime, residents are left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives, unsure of what the future holds. The real estate market, once a symbol of prosperity and stability, is now a cautionary tale of how quickly things can go wrong. As the heat pump disaster continues to unfold in Vancouver, the situation is quickly becoming more dire. Many residents are wondering whether this is the beginning of the end for Vancouver's condo market. The ripple effects are spreading beyond Vancouver's high-end condos to affect rental markets, developers, and even financial institutions. The question on everyone's mind is, where does this crisis end? For condo owners, the costs continue to climb. Some owners have already spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to repair or replace their malfunctioning systems, with no guarantee that the new systems will be more reliable. The uncertainty around repair costs and the long-term functionality of heat pumps is creating a climate of fear among property owners, who are left questioning the value of their investments. Condo prices, which had been on a steady rise for years, have now seen a sharp decline. According to recent data from the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, prices for condos in Vancouver have fallen by as much as 15% since the heat pump issues began. Experts predict that this drop will continue if the crisis isn't addressed swiftly. The financial fallout is not limited to property owners. Vancouver's real estate developers, once some of the most powerful players in the city's economy, are now struggling to stay afloat. Many of them are facing lawsuits from condo owners, and some have even gone bankrupt due to their inability to address the heat pump failures. As the crisis deepens, the reputation of Vancouver's real estate industry has been severely damaged, and trust in developers has been shaken. What was once a booming sector has now become a cautionary tale of how unchecked optimism and the rush to meet green energy goals can lead to disastrous consequences. Banks and other financial institutions are also feeling the strain. Vancouver has long been a hotspot for high-value properties, with foreign investors playing a significant role in the market. However, as property values fall and condo owners struggle to pay for repairs, financial institutions are re-evaluating their exposure to the Vancouver real estate market. RBC, Scotiabank, and other major banks have already begun pulling back from lending on affected properties. Mortgages are becoming harder to secure, and financing for new condo projects is increasingly scarce. Without access to credit, developers are unable to move forward with new builds, further constricting the supply of housing in the city. This has led to a growing sense of panic in Vancouver's rental market. With fewer condos being sold and fewer new properties being built, rental prices are climbing. Landlords are looking to recover the costs of their own repairs, which means renters are being asked to shoulder even more of the burden. For tenants already struggling to make ends meet, this additional financial strain is pushing many to their limits. Renters in buildings with malfunctioning heat pumps are finding themselves in a tough spot. Some are being forced to live in unsafe, uncomfortable conditions, while others are facing the prospect of being evicted if their landlords can't afford the necessary repairs. The human cost of this crisis cannot be understated. Beyond the financial losses, the emotional toll on Vancouver's residents is significant. Many condo owners and renters are facing uncertainty about their future in the city. For longtime residents, the thought of having their homes devalued or rendered uninhabitable is heartbreaking. The Vancouver real estate market was once seen as a stable, profitable investment, but now that stability has been shattered and the once bright future of property ownership in the city is uncertain. For some, the stress of living in deteriorating conditions is taking a physical and emotional toll. Residents in affected buildings have reported increased anxiety, depression, and physical health issues as a result of living in homes without proper heating or cooling. In extreme cases, there have been reports of residents being forced to move out of their condos due to health concerns, adding another layer of difficulty to an already overwhelming situation. This disaster is not just a financial crisis, it's a personal one, affecting the lives of thousands of Vancouver residents. As the crisis worsens, the question of how to fix the problem remains unanswered. Many residents are demanding action from the city's leaders, but political response has been slow. Local officials, who have long championed the use of heat pumps as a sustainable alternative to traditional heating systems, are now scrambling to address the problem. Some have called for investigations into the root causes of the failures, while others have proposed new regulations to ensure that these systems are properly maintained. However, many residents feel that the response has been inadequate, and they are growing frustrated with the lack of tangible solutions. The heat pump disaster has also highlighted the larger issue of sustainability and green building practices in Vancouver. While the city has made strides in promoting energy-efficient homes, the heat pump crisis has shown that these solutions are not always as reliable as they're made out to be. Vancouver's ambitious environmental goals have placed pressure on developers to adopt these systems, but without proper oversight and regulation, these systems have proven to be more of a liability than a benefit for many property owners. The fallout from this crisis may prompt a re-evaluation of Vancouver's green energy initiatives, with many wondering whether the rush to implement sustainable building practices has caused more harm than good. As the crisis continues to unfold, many are asking what the long-term consequences will be for Vancouver's real estate market. Will the city's condo market recover from this disaster, or is this the beginning of a larger collapse? Experts are divided on the issue, but one thing is clear. The fallout from this crisis is far from over. Vancouver's real estate market, once seen as a beacon of stability and prosperity, is now facing an uncertain future. The implications of this crisis go beyond just Vancouver. If this issue continues to spread to other Canadian cities, the national real estate market could experience a similar collapse. As Vancouver's market deteriorates, many are beginning to fear that other cities, particularly those with high concentrations of condos, may soon face similar challenges. If the problems with heat pumps are not resolved quickly, we could see a wave of similar failures across the country, further destabilizing the housing market and potentially triggering a nationwide crisis. The Vancouver heat pump disaster is just the beginning of what could be a much larger crisis. With the real estate market already in turmoil and no clear solution in sight, the future of Vancouver's housing market hangs in the balance. Property values continue to fall, developers are facing financial ruin, and residents are left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. The question now is, how long can Vancouver's condo market hold out before it completely collapses? As the situation continues to evolve, it's clear that Vancouver's condo market is in for a tough ride. Whether the crisis will be contained or will spread to other cities remains to be seen, but one thing is certain: Vancouver's real estate market will never be the same again.